From the York County Democratic Party Convention in Rock Hill, South Carolina, still in the shadow of Charlotte, a little bit farther away, a little bit dimmer, in the buckle of the Bible Belt and the foot of Mount Belzoni, because it's a really big mountain. This is the York County Democratic Party YouTube show and podcast. We call it YCDP-TV. Okay, let's go to the convention.
We're going to go ahead and get started. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please, if you all can go to your seats and we will get this meeting going. And I introduce you to Nikita Jackson.
Good morning, York County Democrats. Good morning. I want to say thank you to everyone that decided to come out in the liquid sunshine for our York County Democratic Party. We are glad to be here. I see a lot of faces, friendly faces, new faces, and just so glad to have everyone here. At this time, we'll have invocation. Miss Amber, our third vice chair, is going to give us invocation. Thank you.
No problem. Good morning. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering of like-minded people that we will be able to move the party forward in our local community, dear God. We just ask that this convention be what you would have it to be, and that we get together, work together, and become one as we push forward for unity. And the devil is trying not to let this message go through, Lord, but we're going to keep praying anyway. And so we ask that you will just come and touch everybody in here, that we will work together, that there will be unity in this place, and that we can get done what we gathered to get done. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. No, I'm not. I was asked, am I going to sing the national anthem? Not today. It's raining. My voice ain't ready. I didn't warm up. At this time, we want to give the opportunity to introduce any elected officials that are present. Are there any elected officials in the house? Please stand. We don't have any elected officials. We'll have a time set aside for anyone who is here who will be running for office here in the upcoming election. I do see Matt Vilardebo in here, so we'll give him an opportunity to speak. And at this time, we're going to have conversation about the first in the primary. Y'all, was that not a big deal? Was that not a big deal to have South Carolina to be first in the nation? We ought to be patting ourselves on the back, throwing confetti up in the air, because that was such a big deal for us. And would like to say that the First in the Nation tour, they started off their kickoff event on January the 13th, right here in York County, y'all. So that speaks volumes. They started at the MLK parade in York County, in York, South Carolina, which is, we know, the longest running MLK parade in the state of South Carolina. So y'all, we have a lot of firsts that have occurred right here in our very own backyard, and we should be very proud of that. And that should give us the momentum of what we need to do moving forward to push our party up to the top of the line right here in the state of South Carolina. With that being said, in South Carolina, there was over 131,332 Democrats that voted in the Democratic presidential primaries. There was an increase, 69.8% voters were Black. And that was a great turnout. It was noted that there was a 13 increase of black voters from 2020 in the presidential primaries to this primary. So that is a double digits. And it was also noted that we had 12,000 new Democrats that voted in the presidential primary. So what does that mean? We did a great job. Everyone was pleased with the first and the primary efforts that went out through the state of South Carolina. But as we know, Democrats, York County Democrats, we have a lot of work that we have to do. And we do have some very important elections that are coming up this June in the June primaries. And so what we do know, or what I do know, is if we're not in the game, we can't win. And what does that mean? We got all of these elections that are coming up, and we have to have a Democrat who's ready, willing, and able to run for these seats. So we got to come. We have to come together as like-minded people, as Amber prayed in her invocation, that we got to start coming together so that we can get viable candidates in these seats to run for the things that we believe in, what is the true heart of the Democratic Party. And with that being said, it has been my pleasure to serve you as your chair since December of 2023. It was a lot of work, but with that being said, the work that we accomplished, and I say we because I did not do it alone. I was just the chair. But I'm telling y'all, we have a great executive committee member team. We're great. We work great together, and there are a lot of things that we do behind the scenes that we're needing to help with. So with that being said, we're going to have opportunities for volunteering at the headquarters. We're going to have opportunities for phone banking so that the candidates that we do have on the ballot, we're able to get out and support them and help push them to the top of the ticket. Also, we're going to need some canvassing. I know we got a lot of new young people here, but guess what? All of us can play a role and part in canvassing. We can have someone drive folks while the others get out and walk and pick some up, but we have to now have a concerted effort on what we're going to look like moving forward. And the team that we have and the team forthcoming, we're ready to work, y'all, but we're just going to need some help, and we're going to have opportunities for you before you leave here today for you to sign up and say, as of today, what am I willing to do to help move our York County Democratic Party forward? Okay? So with that being said, and I will get in trouble if I don't call out some names, but I'm not going to call out any names. I just would like for the York County Executive Committee team members to please stand. The people that stand are the ones that have been working tirelessly here for the last couple of months, getting together information out about the presidential primary. These are the group of people that has been doing the phone banking for the presidential primary. We've also solicited help from others that are in here. If you helped in the presidential primary, please raise your hand so that you can be recognized as well. So we want to say thank y'all for what you guys have done. And as I stated before, there's more work to be done, and it's enough of us in here that we can do it. And one person won't carry the load by him or herself. So York County Democratic Parties, before you leave here, make sure you sign up in your area of passion, because if it's your passion, it's not work. You'll be enjoying, loving, and doing what you will be doing. With that being said, I had the honor of calling and asking someone who is very dear to the South Carolina Democratic Party from the state level. We decided that we wanted to have someone to come out and be a guest speaker, and we have none other than Miss Carol Fowler. She is a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. I look to Carol every time we're at the state convention or just anything dealing with the state party. I look at how poised she is, how graceful she is, and how she relays a message that sits in your heart and warms your heart. So we're very grateful to have Miss Carol Fowler here. Her and her husband have been on this path for many, many, many years, and we're just grateful to have her. For those of you that don't know Carol, I'm going to give you a little background information. Carol Fowler, she started as the first woman, you hear? First woman to chair the South Carolina Democratic Party from 2007 until 2011. Carol Fowler has spent a lifetime devoted to grassroots organizing and training. Carol has worked on campaigns at every level and still enjoys providing advice and encouragement to candidates seeking office. She's a native of Walterboro, South Carolina. Carol currently serves as the executive director and then the chair of the Richland County Democratic Party. For over a decade, she was often a key communication link between the county party officers, activists, and the state party while serving as the vice chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party. Carol currently serves as a member of the Democratic National Committee for South Carolina and serves on the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, a committee she once co-chaired. To no further ado, and I am going to do this shameless plug, Carol Fowler is also up for re-election for the DNC. So we need to re-elect, I'm putting it out there, re-elect Ms. Carol Fowler so that she can go to the DNC to represent us from the state of South Carolina. So no further ado, I will give the mic over to Ms. Carol Fowler.
Thank you, York County Democrats. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Somebody thanked me for when I walked in for coming from Columbia, and I said, you know, this is a treat for me to come to some other county's convention because every county's a little different. We all do things a little different. I went to the Richland County Convention last week, which is where I live, and we sat in rows and there were arguments and, you know, it was a bunch of Democrats and it was great, but it's nice to be with a different bunch of Democrats. I want to tell you one little story. Nikita asked me to come and talk to you about why we vote in Democratic primaries and not Republican primaries, and why you signed an oath when you came in saying that you had not voted in the Republican presidential primary. And I'm going to talk about that, but I want to tell you a little story too about coming from Columbia. Nikita said that I was actually from Walterboro. I haven't lived there in 60 years or something, but I am from Walterboro. And when you're from a small town, they know you and you identify with them. There is no need for me to come to York County to explain rules and why we do things. So John Holder can do that, and several others of you can do that. But a long time ago, in the 1970s, I was working for the South Carolina Democratic Party, and there was an election in my hometown, and then there was a runoff, and the Democrats there thought it was a city council election. I think it was only 4 precincts affected, but the Democrats there decided that the election was going to be close and it was going to be stolen. They believed that there were some tricks going on, something was going to happen bad, and they called the South Carolina Democratic Party. At the time, Don Fowler was the chair, and he came to me and said, these people in Walterboro think that we need to send somebody from Columbia to supervise this election and be a poll watcher and all of that because they think this election is going to be stolen. He said, it's not, they know what they're doing, but you go down there because you're from Walterboro. You can go down there and spend the night with your grandparents and we don't have to pay for a hotel room, all of those things. So I went for this election, not knowing a lot about election law, but they were cordial when I came in. I said I came from the state party, and I'd like to sit here and watch today. So I sat there all day long and observed the election. Well, I didn't see any funny business going on, and then they began to count the ballots. And they were paper ballots, and if you have ever counted paper ballots, you know there are some that you cannot tell how that voter meant to vote. And it is the responsibility of the poll managers who are counting the ballots to decide, to make the decision, did this person want to vote for the D or the R? And sometimes it's kind of hard, but they were counting the ballots, and then they came to one that they couldn't determine. How had this voter voted, the D or the R? And finally, the poll manager said, well, why don't we ask the lady from Columbia? So they brought it to me and they said, we know you came from Columbia. Can you help us decide? Well, of course I could help them decide. It was clearly for the Democrat. But it was clear to me that it was the Democrat. So fine, they counted it for the Democrat. And they went on, and pretty soon they found another ballot. Well, out of maybe 150 voters that day, there were probably 10 or 20 ballots that they couldn't determine, and every time they said, let's let the lady from Columbia decide. So the lady from Columbia and the Democrat won, by the way, but the lady from Columbia has come today to tell you about why we vote in Republican primaries. I told John Holder, I thought why we vote in Democratic primaries. I told John Holder that on that touch screen, if my finger ever went toward voting for a Republican general election or primary, I think my finger would just burn off. So I don't do that. But you need to understand that we have primaries for the parties to nominate their candidates. Primaries are supposed to be partisan. You know, in today's politics, people talk about needing to be nonpartisan and bipartisan. Well, a primary is supposed to be partisan. And we don't have to have a primary, by the way. There are other ways to nominate our candidates, both presidential and local candidates and state candidates. The party could decide, for instance, to nominate our candidate for governor in a state convention, but we don't do that. We want all Democrats to be able to participate, and we want all Democrats voting in the Democratic primary. You signed an oath, as I said, when you came in, that you had not voted in the Republican presidential primary. We've had that oath. We've had a few people complain about that this year, but we've had that oath for decades, forever, because South Carolina law says you only vote in one primary. You have to choose. And now, you're going to have there'll be another primary in June, and you get to choose again. What you did in this primary doesn't affect what you do in the June primary. But you did sign that oath. The South Carolina Democratic Party rules say you can only participate in one party's reorganization process. We abide by the state law, only one primary, but we add to that, you can only participate in one party's reorganization process. And the Democratic National Committee says you can only, and they make the rules about presidential nominations, and they say you can only participate in one party's presidential nominating process, and that includes this county convention. You are a part of nominating our next president. We know it's going to be Joe Biden, but you are a part of the nominating process because you're going to elect delegates to the state convention. The state convention delegates are going to elect our delegates to the national convention, and they are going to choose our nominee. But that is why we say only one primary. Now, in the lead up to this most recent presidential primary, ours and the Republicans. There was some talk from Democrats who said, we know Biden is going to win. There was never a question that Biden would win the Democratic primary. But some Democrats said to me, well, I want to vote in the Republican primary because that will help Haley and it will hurt Trump. I had other Democrats say to me, I want to vote in the Republican primary because it will help get more votes for Trump. I want to vote for Trump because he'll be easier for Biden to beat. Now, I wonder if those votes canceled each other out. I don't know how that turned out. But a lot of Democrats got texts after our primary saying, you should vote in the Republican primary. If you didn't vote in the Democratic primary, you should, and maybe some were out, some of those texts were out there before, even before our primary. Don't worry about your primary, vote in the Republican primary. If you got those texts, which I did, they were anonymous. They didn't tell you who they were from. Well, they were funded by the Nikki Haley campaign. So she had reason to believe that if Democrats voted in the Republican primary, they would vote for her. I don't know. But if you thought about it ahead of time, and you thought about these two primaries, and you were paying attention to the news, you knew Trump is way ahead. 1 million people, or close to 1 million people, were going to vote in the Republican primary. Now, a few hundred Democrats voting in the Republican primary were not going to make any difference. And as you saw, they didn't. Some Democrats did vote. I understand there's at least one in this room who voted in the Republican primary, but it didn't make any difference. Some of you might be old enough to remember the 2000 Republican presidential primary in South Carolina. There were some Democrats. We knew that Al Gore was going to be our nominee. We didn't have a primary, but Al Gore had competition for the nomination, but everybody was pretty sure he was going to win. Some Democrats actually organized a group of people to go in that and vote in that primary in the Republican primary for John McCain. They said, oh, it's John McCain or it's George Bush, and we just think John McCain is just a really great fella, and if we got to have a Republican president, that's who we want. Well, you remember President John McCain? It didn't help him either. So if you think that a few Democrats can change what happens with all those Republicans, you're just wrong. You're just wasting your vote. If you're a Democrat, though, voting in the Republican primary, what's the harm? Even if it doesn't change the outcome, what's the harm of you doing that? Now, I have never voted in a Republican primary or for a Republican. I just don't have the stomach for it. And I will tell you that Nikki Haley's policies are no better than Donald Trump's policies. She is maybe more presentable to some of us, but she is not a better person than Donald Trump because she wouldn't be a Republican if she were a better person. That's just. But I knew that Biden was going to win. You knew that Biden was going to win, but I hope you went and voted anyway. Having that enthusiasm, showing our support and enthusiasm for Biden, that made a difference. It mattered to the story and the news that came out of our primary. And I suspect you all figured that out. You got out of bed and went and voted because it mattered to Joe Biden and it mattered to this country that we have a good turnout and show good support for Joe Biden, and that worked. But if the outcome of the primary already known, what's the downside of voting in the Republican primary? For one thing, then you can't participate in our delegate selection process. And I like doing that. I want to help select the people who are going to go to the national convention or even go to the state convention and choose our nominee and choose our party officers. All of those things. I want good Democrats to be eligible to do that. But you can't do that if you voted in that Republican primary. Now, we'll be through with our state convention before the June primary. So if you choose to vote in a Republican June primary, I hope you don't, but if you do, that won't affect your ability to be a delegate to the state convention. But because we don't register by party, some states, they have party registration and you can only vote in your party's primary. We don't have that. The Republicans, if anybody in here, and I don't want to know it, voted in the Republican primary, they had some ballot questions. Those don't have anything to do with, they're not going to ever see the light of day in the legislature, I hope. But there are Republicans in the legislature and on that ballot question who said, we want people in South Carolina to register by party so that you can only vote in your own party's primary. We don't have that yet. I hope we don't get it because I want to encourage people to be Democrats. Come participate. Feel like you're a Democrat. But if you vote in a Republican primary, you're going to be identified then as a Republican. You're going to start getting their mail. Oh my goodness, they're going to want your money. Don't send it. But the other thing is, it's important for us to know who the Democrats are, and we have to either call people up and ask them, or we have to look and see if you voted in a Republican primary or a Democratic primary. If you have a long history of voting in Democratic primaries, that's pretty good information for the party to have. It's great information for a candidate to have. You're likely to be a Democrat if you always vote in our primaries. But the most, I asked somebody at the state party last night, I said, what's the biggest downside to a person voting in the Republican primary when they're really a Democrat? And he said, it's our data. Don't mess up our data. And if you've run for office, you understand that. If you're running for office this year, I hope you're using Vote Builder through the state party. But it's the two most important things that a candidate has, Democratic or Republican, I guess, the two most important things that the candidate has are money and time, the candidate's time. Now, you don't want to waste either one of those, and so you don't want to waste time talking to the wrong, or money, talking to the wrong voters. The surest way to win an election is to get your targeting right. And if you can't target voters based on their history of where they vote, when they vote, which primaries they vote in, how often they vote, all of those things, if you can't target based on that, you start out a step behind. So our candidates need to know who are the Democrats. They need to know that to turn them out in November. They need to know them to talk to before a primary in June. When I look at Vote Builder, and some of you I know have used it, if you look up yourself, you can see your voting record. And my voting record says that I always vote, I never miss an election, and that I always vote in Democratic primaries. Well, that information is good for candidates. It means if you're a Democratic candidate, you don't have to waste time talking to me. You know I'm going to vote for you, and you know I'm going to vote. So I've just saved you $10 or whatever you would have spent mailing to me, I've just saved you 15 minutes if you were going to knock on my door. Well, that kind of data is just tremendously valuable to a candidate. And if a candidate ignores it, they lose. We had a good Democratic House candidate in my district a few years ago, and he came knocking on my door. And I said, why are you knocking on my door? You already knew I was for you. We've talked. You know, I ran into you at a Democratic Party meeting. And he said, oh, I am knocking on every door. I said, well, you are going to lose. And guess what he did? So candidates have to be able to know something about the voters, and what primary you voted in is essential to know. And there is one more reason that I hope all of you voted in the presidential primary. I wish every Democrat had, and it's pretty dear to my heart. I was somewhat involved in the activities leading up to the vote that South Carolina would be the first in the nation. This doesn't always happen to me, but I was in the room where it happened. And I want to tell you, that was huge to me. It is huge to me that we had the first in the nation, even though we knew the outcome this time. And I'll tell you a little story. I'm friends with Congressman Clyburn. We're all friends with Congressman Clyburn. He is our congressman, if you're a Democrat in South Carolina. But we know that Congressman Clyburn is close to President Biden. Well, the Democratic Party's Rules and Bylaws Committee, where I have served for a long time, makes the determination of which states go first. But this time, we were waiting for instructions from the White House. We knew nobody on that committee wanted to do anything without President Biden weighing in on it. And he was strangely silent for weeks and months. We didn't know what he wanted. We sort of knew some things, but we didn't know, and we didn't want to do it wrong. Well, we reached a point where the decision was going to have to be made. We had a meeting on a Friday, I guess, and because every state is affected by this, we were going to have to make that decision, and still no word from the White House. So on the Monday, I talked to somebody in Washington, and they said, well, we heard that there was a White House staff meeting tomorrow, and they're going to make that decision of how they want to instruct the DNC to order these states. And I said, well, do you know what they're going to say? No, nobody has any idea what's going to come out of this. So I called Congressman Clyburn, and I said, this decision is going to be made. I haven't heard anything. We've always, for the last several cycles, we have been the first in the South, and we've been the fourth primary, but we've been the first in the South. This is great. We want to keep it. We want to continue to be an early primary, as you know, Congressman Clyburn, and he's very invested in this process too. And he said, well, I'll try to talk to the president tomorrow and see if he has any thoughts on this, and I will encourage him to make sure that South Carolina is still the first in the South. That's great, but I heard there's a meeting at the White House tomorrow, and what if it's in the morning and you don't talk to him before that? And he said, well, I'll talk to the president this afternoon. Now, for one thing, I was really impressed, because I don't even think the King of England can guarantee that he needs to talk to the president this afternoon and promise that will get done. But Congressman Clyburn did that, and he called me back and he said, he didn't really tell me anything except not to worry. And I said, well, okay, if we don't have to worry, no use worrying. So on the Thursday night, that was on a Tuesday, I guess, and on the Thursday night, before the decision had to be made on Friday, the Rules and Bylaws Committee, we generally have a dinner the night before an important meeting that we don't let anybody else in. We don't make decisions in that meeting, but if something huge is going to come out the next day, we talk about how we might talk about that to the press. We also, if there's going to be a big fight in the committee, we try to sort of work out some things so that we don't have a public fight in our public meeting the next day. We don't take any votes. Everybody says what's on their mind and we move on. So that night at the dinner, we're talking about this decision that has to be made, and a staff person walked in and said, have a letter from the White House that you all should open before tomorrow. So the co-chair of the Rules and Bylaws Committee opened the letter and read it, and it was from Joe Biden. And it said, now bear in mind, my two closest friends on that committee, one is from New Hampshire and one is from Iowa, and I was sitting between them at dinner. And Jim Roosevelt opened the letter and read it, and it said, I want South Carolina to go first. So I was trying to be cool. I was trying to act like, oh, I knew this all along, and trying not to act like I had done anything to hurt the chances or the feelings of my two best friends on the committee from Iowa and New Hampshire. But anyway, that's the way our First in the Nation primary came about. We are not guaranteed the First in the Nation spot the next time. That whole process is going to be gone through again. Now, I would prefer to go through that process with Joe Biden in the White House as to some Republican in the White House and the DNC free to do what it wants to do. Because if Biden loses, there will be people who blame that on South Carolina. They will say, well, if he'd done it the old way and let New Hampshire vote first, Biden would have won. There will be all kinds of things like that. We don't want that to happen. And we don't want it to look like there was no enthusiasm in South Carolina for Joe Biden. We needed to show that enthusiasm in our primary, which we did, and we certainly need to show it as we move forward toward November. We need to show that South Carolina is Biden country. South Carolina has plenty of good Democrats who can do a great job having the First in the Nation primary. We just have to do it, and it is in your lap to do it. I can't do it all myself. You have to do it. You have to, every one of you and every other Democrat in the state has to get out there and make it happen for Biden, make it happen for Democrats, show that we deserve the position that we had. And Joe Biden has made it a lot easier for us. If you watched him on Thursday night, I watched it alone because I live alone. I watched that speech, and I kept wishing there were other people in the room with me, because I would have felt silly standing up off the couch yelling and screaming and saying, oh, that, yes, and clapping. So I didn't. But if there had been just one more person in the room with me, I'd have been yelling and screaming, because he certainly did show us what kind of president we have and what kind of president we need to keep. And it's up to you to keep it that way. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you, Carol, for coming down and imparting your knowledge on the York County Democratic Party. And we want to thank you for all that you do to help move us forward as well. It is an honor to have her here. You hear the wealth of knowledge that she has, and she brought that to us here in York County. And so, Carol, we're forever grateful to you for that. And we wish you many, many, many more years on this journey to help continue to move South Carolina Democrats forward. So now, this is the time in the convention where we now will conduct the business of the York County Democratic Party. This is a first for many. Some of us have been through this process before, but you have your agenda so that you can follow the outline of what that looks like. And before I move any further, I do want to throw out a plug. If you, everyone in here, if you have not noticed or if you didn't know, we have a TV show. And we would like for everybody to join. You know, the young people say like and share, so we're going to need for you to start liking and sharing the York County. It's the YCDP-TV. That's our YouTube channel. I'm going to say it again, YCDP-TV. That's the YouTube channel. And we have a podcast as well. If you have not signed up, if you haven't gone to take a look at that, please do so. We got a lot of great information on there. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast or the YouTube TV show, just let us know. We got a spot for you. And we would like to thank Gary Pierce. If you see the cameras in the back, the podcast is the same, correct, Gary? It's the same. Podcast is the same. So Gary has volunteered to take our Gary has volunteered to do that for us. He has been a great asset to the York County Democratic Party, and we want to thank him for stepping in and taking up. So if you don't get information, please go there and go to our website, okay? Really appreciate it. And I did move a little bit too fast. We want to thank Carol Fowler. We have a gift for you. We have a gift for you for coming, taking time out of your day in the liquid sunshine to be with us. So we want to say thank you for that. Okay, that's fine. So now, we'll move towards the election of convention officers. So at this time, being the chair, I will step aside and we will now elect a convention chair who will move forward and proceed on with the business of our county convention. That's how it's been done. That's the process. And we're going to continue with that process. Once we elect a county chair, we will then elect a volunteer to take the minutes and the notes for our county chair so that we can turn that information over to the state party. So at this time, we'll take nominations from the floor for someone to be the chair for the county convention moving forward.
Second.
The motion has been made and second that John Holder will proceed as the county convention chair. Any questions, concerns? Any further comments? Well, any other nominations? No other nominations? Let's take. Okay, it has been moved, motion and a second. Let's all take a vote to vote John, as we already have, as the chair of the convention. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, raise hand. Anybody opposed? No opposed? Come on, John, let's take it over.
Thank you. It was a long, hard-fought fight, but we made it. I appreciate your support. Now, Carol mentioned getting on Republican mailing lists. When Trump spoke at the Winthrop Coliseum in 2016, several of us in the political science department were there as media observers. So I had to go, and I had to give them my contact information. Now, unfortunately, nobody in the media asked me what I thought. I would have told them. But I got on Trump's mailing list. And it's like, I'm a billionaire, send me money. Unsubscribe. You're a very sick person. Anyway, I do Bernie Sanders better than I do Trump. We are now going to elect the convention secretary and the convention treasurer. Floor is open for nominations. We can do 2 people or that same person for both positions. Darelene Mansfield. Diane Ingersol has been nominated for secretary and treasurer. Are there further nominations? Seeing no further nominations, I will entertain a motion to elect Diane by acclamation. Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Congratulations, Diane. Thanks. Okay, we now pass the hat. We have over on this table, we have some YCDP merch. We have coffee mugs. We have Biden-Harris t-shirts. There is a jar there to take collections. If you would like to help defray the cost of the convention by putting some money in that jar, Diane, as the convention treasurer, will be happy to take it. Just to see how many precincts are represented here, I'd like to call a roll of the precincts. If you vote in that precinct, raise your hand. Now, we will be electing executive committee members. We would like to have 1 from each precinct. That's the goal. So if you are the only person from your precinct who attends this meeting, welcome to our executive committee. And we appreciate your service. Adna precinct. Did I see a hand? Airport precinct. Allison Creek. Anderson Road. Baxter. Bethany. Bethel. Bethel School. Bowling Green. Bullocks Creek. Yeah, I'd like to find some Democrats in southwestern York County. We know they're out there. I remember driving through Hickory Grove or someplace during the 2000 election, and I saw a Gore sign in somebody's yard, and I realized I knew whose house it was. Just because, oh, that's the Democrat in Bullocks Creek. Cannon Mill. Carolina. Votes at the Fort Mill School District office. Catawba. Celanese. Clover. Cotton Belt. Crescent. Lake Ridge Community Center in Fort Mill. Delphia. Doby's Bridge. Ebenezer. Ebenport. Edgewood. Fairgrounds. Ferry Branch. I think that's one of the new ones. Fuel Park. Field Day in Clover. Filbert. Fort Mill number 1. Fort Mill number 2. Fort Mill number 3. Fort Mill number 4. Fort Mill number 5. Fort Mill number 6. Friendship. Gold Hill. Hampton Mill. Hands Mill. Harvest. Hickory Grove. There are Democrats in southwestern York County. Highland Park. Hollis Lakes. Hopewell. Independence. India Hook. Kanawha, or Kanawha, however they pronounce that. That's what I thought. Lakeshore. There are Democrats in Lake Wiley. Yay. Lakewood. Larne. Laurel Creek. You get to vote at Ralph Norman's clubhouse. Leslie. Manchester. McConnell's. Mill Creek. Mountain View. Mount Gallant. Mount Holly. Nation Ford. Neely's Creek. New Home. Newport. Northside. Northwestern. Oak Ridge. Oakwood. Ogden. Old Point. Orchard Park. Palmetto. Pleasant Road. Sounds like such a nice place to live. Paul Branch. River Hills. River's Edge. Riverview. Rock Creek. Rock Hill number 2. Oddly enough, we don't have a Rock Hill number 1. Rock Hill number 3. Rock Hill number 4. Rock Hill number 5. You vote here. Thanks for showing up. Rock Hill number 6. Rock Hill number 7. Rock Hill number 8. Roosevelt. Rosewood. Sharon. Yeah, I'm from York County. I know how to pronounce Sharon correctly. Shoreline. 6 Mile. Smyrna. Springdale. Springfield. State Line. Steel Creek. Tegakay. Terza. Tools Fork. University. Waterstone. Windjammer. Wiley. York number 1. York number 2. All right, we have a good turnout. Thank you all for coming. As I said, if you are the only person, yeah, let's give it up for that. If you are the only person from your precinct here, a precinct is, we have done away with the traditional precinct officers. So we no longer have official precinct president or precinct vice president or so forth, but a precinct is considered organized when it is represented on its county executive committee. So if you are the only person from your precinct who showed up, I was joking earlier, but we could really use you on our executive committee. We meet 4 times a year, and we keep you informed, and you are the governing body of the county party on an ongoing basis. So if you would like to sign up or re-up as a member of the executive committee, we'd appreciate that. I have a question. Yes, I may have an answer. Yes.
does the Pinewood Church, how are they listed as precinct? That is where we voted on Highway 5. So they're not having that Pinewood anymore? John is Toolsfork.
Toolsfork Precinct, it says Pineville AME Zion Church. Toolsfork is the name of the precinct. Sure. Darelene Mansfield.
I had another lady register in and my precinct. So, we voted the same place. But anyway, then you'll be the executive committee person, and I'll be the one for Baxter.
Perfect.
So, how will we do some others that there was a couple of people? Because we need to know who that, right?
I'm sorry?
We need to know who those people are and vote.
Yes.
Is that right?
So we should get
We'll have a
them,
meeting in 30 days.
Yeah.
we should get them, if anybody wants, we should have them come to me and we'll get them on here. If you want-
Yeah, let's just circulate a sign-up sheet. And people did file as well? A couple of people file?
Yeah, but there's only 7 or 8.
That's not a quorum. While we're doing that, we will proceed to the election of county party officers. We are electing a chair, a first vice chair, a second vice chair, and a third vice chair. Darelene Mansfield and I are on the State Executive Committee. Beth Boone-Phillips and Malik Frazier are our alternates. Our terms do not expire until next year, so we're not up to date. The state party is transitioning everything to odd-year elections. So the people elected today will serve for a 1-year term as opposed to the traditional 2-year term, but then we'll have elections for 2-year terms in 2025. We did have a filing mechanism so people could, actually I'm going to pull out the job description, give me a second. We did have a filing description, filing period so that people could express their interest. Thank you very much, Diane. County party officer duties and responsibilities. The officers chosen on the county level represent both a larger geographical area and a broader mix of political philosophies. These persons must be actively concerned with the Democratic Party and its betterment and willing and able to devote time and energy to party activities. Chair. The chair is the central figure in the county Democratic Party. This person must have considerable organizational skills and be respected by party members. The chair calls and presides at meetings of the County Executive Committee. They are responsible for arrangements for party primaries, the county convention, and the election of all Democratic candidates who run in the county. The chair is also responsible for communicating information from the state party to the county party officers and membership. That's the job description. We had one candidate file, our incumbent chair, Nikita Jackson. So Nikita is on the ballot. The chair will entertain, since nobody else filed, the chair will entertain a motion to elect Nikita Jackson by acclamation. There is a motion and a second. Those in favor of re-electing Nikita Jackson as chair of the York County Democratic Party signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Congratulations, Madam Chair. The first vice chair must be of a different gender than the chair. This person assumes the role of the chair when the chair is unavailable. The second vice chair must be another race than the chair. The third vice chair must be under 36 years of age. Each vice chair will perform duties as directed by the chair. We had 2 candidates file for first vice chair, but one of them has agreed to run for second vice chair. So our candidate for first vice chair is Christopher Burris. Is Christopher here? Come on, since I don't think many people know you, so come on up and introduce yourself. I didn't ask Nikita to introduce herself because you all know her.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Burris. Born and raised in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I'm here today to represent the Democratic Party and take the Democratic Party to a higher level, try to get more people involved that's really not into voting, and try to get more people persuaded to join this party and get out and do a lot of work in the Democratic Party. So I'm just glad to be here, and I hope I can get everybody's support if I'm voted in. Thanks.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to elect Christopher Burris first vice chair by acclamation. There is a motion. Second. There is a motion and a second. Those in... Yeah, he dropped down to second. Brian's going to be second. Those in favor of electing Christopher Burris as first vice chair of the York County Democratic Party signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Congratulations, Mr. First Vice Chair. The second vice chair must be of a different race than the chair. We have an African-American chair, so we need a person of a different race. Ryan Stevens had filed to be first vice chair, but he has agreed to run for second vice chair since we do have a, I'm sorry, Melissa withdrew. So Ryan is the only candidate. Given that this is a last-minute thing, the chair will entertain other nominations from the floor for second vice chair, a non-African American. The gender and race diversity requirements, because we changed chair in the fall, the previous chair was a white man, we now have an African American woman. We were able to keep the existing vice chairs in place until the county convention. But as of this convention, we have to elect a new second vice chair who is a different race than the chair. And having said that, I want to thank Mellissa Rouse for her service on our committee. Okay, with that explanation, are there further nominations for first vice chair? Second vice, thank you. See, and he corrected me. He's going to be a good vice chair. The motion to elect Ryan Stevens by acclamation as second vice chair of the York County Democratic Party. There is a motion and a second. Those in favor, aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Congratulations, Mr. Second Vice Chair. And I should have given you a chance to come up and introduce yourself. If you can't tell, I'm kind of winging it. I'm winging it.
Good morning, good afternoon. How is everyone in York County Democratic Party? Are we excited? We getting ready for 2024? I am honored to be on the board. I am a recent Clyburn Fellow graduate from 2023. I have run for county council. I've helped 3 candidates run for office here in York County. Matt is a candidate running again in Fort Mill area. And so I'm excited. I want to see our party engage this year. We need to get people on the ballot. So I see beautiful faces that can put their names on the ballots, get elected to our state house and our state senate, and we also have a 1 seat that we really need to fight for, and that is Senator Fanning's seat in his district, because if we lose that seat, the Republicans will have a supermajority in the state senate. So we really need to focus in on our state houses and getting people elected. So I look forward to working with everyone and getting everyone engaged to get out and help our candidates run and win. So thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. Third vice chair, we have 1 candidate, Amben Bowen, who is our incumbent. And you can, if you want to.
Okay. Hello. My name is Amben Bowen. It's nice to see everybody as well as be seen. I am the incumbent third vice chair. I'm looking forward to continue to learn and grow in the York County Democratic Party and serving you all, as well as trying to help get some of our youth more engaged in politics and learning and understanding that it is very important to elect representation that really stands and aligns with your values. So I'm looking forward to hopefully continuing on this journey if you guys see fit to elect me again. Thank you.
And since she's the only candidate who filed, the chair will entertain a motion to elect Ms. Bowen by acclamation as third vice chair. There is a motion. Is there a second? There are multiple seconds. Those in favor of the election of Amben Bowen as third vice chair of the York County Democratic Party signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Congratulations, Madam Third Vice Chair. We do have two officers who are not elected here but are chosen at an executive committee meeting within 30 days of this convention. The secretary, I believe our current secretary is no longer involved. So if you're interested in getting involved on a significant level and being on the executive board, let us know. The county secretary keeps the minutes of the county officers, executive committee, and county convention meetings. The secretary must inform Democrats within the county of meetings and activities. The secretary must file with the state party an accurate list of the executive committee and precinct officers to include point of contact information and keep abreast of current party rules and procedures. The secretary is elected per state party rules by the county party executive committee in a meeting no more than 30 days after the county convention. Again, if you're interested, let us know. The treasurer oversees the financial affairs of the county party. This individual must prepare a budget that mirrors party needs and assist in raising funds. The treasurer keeps records on party monies garnered from fundraising activities and filing fees. The chair is elected per state party rules by the county party executive committee in a meeting no more than 30 days following the county convention. Diane Ingersol is our incumbent, and thank you for what you're doing. Now, not all counties have a county finance director, but this is an available position. This position is not required. The county finance director assists the county party treasurer with fundraising and solicitation of contributions for the county and state parties. The county finance director is elected per state party rules by the county party executive committee in a meeting no more than 30 days following the county convention. So basically, if you want a position on our executive board that is full-time fundraising, please let us know. We would appreciate your involvement. Again, the executive committee persons, the county executive committee persons to the state party are not up this year. Darelene and I do that. Do we have the job description for Precinct Executive Committee? So I'm going to wing this. The governing body of the York County Democratic Party is the County Executive Committee. Ideally, we have one person per precinct. That would be a fully organized county. That has frankly not happened in a while. But go to 4 meetings a year, keep abreast, keep in touch with Democrats in your precinct, and so forth. We did have, during the filing period, we did have several people file to serve on the executive committee, and I'm about to entertain a motion to elect them.
And so we have the list of people who already said they wanted to be precinct members and go to the convention. Is that right? Did I say that right? And then I'm sending around a list to be added to the list that we already had. So anybody who wants to go to the convention needs to sign that paper that's going around. There's 3 pieces, paper going around. So if you want to go to the convention to be a delegate, we need you to sign those papers, and then there's a few that here have already signed in.
So the people who filed, and there seems to be no competition in any of these precincts, Karen Meeks from All Saints Catholic Church that meets at All Saints, Luke Beadle from Riverview, Beth Phillips from Palmetto, Barbara Bugg from Filbert, Brandon Upson from Gold Hill, Amber Bowen from Doby's Bridge, April Padalecco from Shoreline, and Monica White from Old Point. The chair will entertain a motion to elect those people by acclamation. It has been moved. Is there a second? There is a second. Those in favor of electing the above-named individuals to the County Executive Committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Congratulations to those of you who are new members of the committee. And again, the sign-up sheet is going around. If you would like to be on the Executive Committee, go for it. Now, if there's more than one person from... That is an excellent question. We are required to meet 4 times a year. We do not strictly meet every 3 months, but we publicize those meetings hopefully well ahead of time. They're usually in the evening, or actually the Executive Committee meetings are usually on a Saturday when most people are free. So basically we're asking you to give up a couple hours on 4 Saturday mornings of the year. We have to meet within 30 days to elect the secretary and the treasurer and do some other stuff. And by the way, I assume everybody signed in, but if you did not sign in, please do so before you leave so we know you were here. Next up, we have adoption of resolutions. You can submit a resolution. They were available to be submitted online. These go to the State Party Platform and Resolutions Committee, which will have a representative from York County, and these go into the platform of the State Party, which will be ratified at the State Convention in Columbia. So I'm gonna, some of these are fairly detailed. Some of them are nice and succinct. Resolution title from Darelene Mansfield, John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Whereas twice the act has failed short of passing the Senate, therefore be it resolved the John Lewis Voting Rights Act be brought back to the House and Senate for hopefully a successful passing. Is there discussion? If you're opposed to that, why are you here? Okay, so this I'm going to put on my political science professor hat. The Supreme Court, in a decision called Shelby County versus Holder, not me, Eric Holder was the Obama administration Attorney General, overturned a number of the provisions of the Voting Rights Acts of 1965 and 1970 because they were no longer relevant. They were doing things like using 1964 and 1968 election data to prove racial discrimination in voting, and like places like Mississippi, which were targeted by the act in 1965, so were we. Mississippi now has, in terms of raw numbers, more African American elected officials than any place else in the country. So Shelby County, Alabama argued that they no longer need that kind of federal supervision. And the John Lewis Voting Rights Act would restore and update a lot of those provisions and also implement a number of protections for voting. Yes, Darlene stepped out. It's her resolution. I wanted to give her a chance to speak. Okay. Any discussion? The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution by acclamation. There is a motion, there is a second. Those in favor of adopting the resolution in favor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, go out and get in your car. Resolution carries. Okay, Mr. Moore.
I always like to point out that I knew John Lewis. Anytime I would see him, he would ask me, "Where are you from?" and I'd say, Rock Hill, South Carolina. And then he would touch his head and say, I know where Rock Hill, South Carolina is. And by saying that, he was reminding me that he came through with the Freedom Riders, right? That's his connection to York County.
Thank you for reminding us. I also want to point out that in 2002, I believe, Congressman Lewis was invited back to Rock Hill, and Mayor Doug Eccles officially apologized on behalf of the city of Rock Hill for what happened to him here. And he was very gracious. There was a ceremony at Winthrop. He was very gracious. He was very kind. As many of you know, he was like that throughout his life. So thank you, Mr. Moore, for reminding us of his connection here. Resolution by Mellissa Rouse. The York County Democratic Party resolves to overturn the South Carolina Republican-controlled legislature's passing of private school aid to South Carolina residents. This aid, yeah, go for it. This, I can't clap with the microphone or I'd overwhelm it. You know, I was on Wheel of Fortune, and they give you the lapel microphone, and you're supposed to golf clap. Like, what I was supposed to be doing was... So it would show up on camera like I was clapping, but they didn't want me to overwhelm the microphone, and I was doing this. And apparently back in the control room, there's a sound man that I'm giving migraines. So I'm not going to clap while I'm holding the microphone. That does not mean a lack of support for the resolution. This aid will allow $6,000 to the parents of up to 5,000 students for the school year starting in August 2024. The state has a goal to reach up to 15,000 students, totaling more than $30 million of public school funding that will be shifted to private schools. Ms. Rouse, would you like to speak on this?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I am a product of public school. If it had not been for public school, I would not be a Clemson University graduate. So I take it very seriously. I take it very personally. I'm not only looking out for myself, I'm looking out for my children. I'm looking out for my children's children and my children's children's children. So for me, I take it very seriously, and I take it personally that South Carolina has implemented and passed that law. So I would strongly suggest and encourage us to look out for our public schools in any way that we can, so that our future generation benefits and can be standing here in 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rouse. Would anyone else like to speak on this resolution, in favor or opposed? The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution by acclamation. It's been moved. Second. It's been seconded. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, get in the car. The resolution is adopted. Title: Resolution for Comprehensive Gun Safety Measures. Whereas the safety and well-being of all citizens are of paramount importance to a democratic society, and whereas the prevalence of gun violence poses a significant threat to public safety and security, causing immense harm to individuals, families, and communities across the nation, and whereas it is imperative for democratic institutions to uphold the rights enshrined in the Constitution while simultaneously implementing measures to prevent gun-related tragedies, and whereas the adoption of sensible and evidence-based gun safety measures is crucial to reducing the incidence of firearm-related injuries and fatalities. Therefore, be it resolved that 1, establishment of universal background checks. All firearm transactions, including private sales and transfers, shall be subject to comprehensive background checks to prevent firearms from falling into the hands of individuals who pose a risk to public safety. Background checks shall include an assessment of criminal history, mental health records, and other relevant factors to determine eligibility for firearm ownership. 2, implementation of red flag laws. The enactment of red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders, shall empower law enforcement and family members to petition for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals who demonstrate a clear danger to themselves or others. Proper due process shall be ensured, including the right to a hearing, before any firearm confiscation occurs. 3, promotion of responsible firearm storage. Mandatory requirements for safe storage of firearms shall be enforced to prevent unauthorized access, particularly in households with children or individuals at risk of self-harm. Education and outreach programs shall be initiated to raise awareness about the importance of secure firearm storage practices. 4, funding for gun violence prevention programs. Adequate funding shall be allocated to support community-based initiatives aimed at preventing gun violence, including youth intervention programs, mental health services, and violence interruption efforts. Research into the root causes of gun violence and the effectiveness of prevention strategies shall be prioritized to inform evidence-based policymaking. 5, regulation of high-capacity magazines and assault weapons. Restrictions shall be placed on the sale and possession of high-capacity magazines and military-style assault weapons to minimize the potential for mass casualties and incidents of gun violence. Existing firearms laws shall be strengthened to close loopholes and prevent the proliferation of weapons designed for combat purposes. 6, collaboration with stakeholders. Collaboration with law enforcement agencies, public health officials, community organizations, and other stakeholders shall be fostered to develop comprehensive strategies for addressing gun violence at the local, state, and national levels. Regular evaluations of gun safety policies and programs shall be conducted to assess their efficacy and make necessary adjustments based on evolving circumstances and emerging best practices. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be communicated to relevant legislative bodies, government agencies, and the public at large to garner support for the implementation of comprehensive gun safety measures in South Carolina. I don't have the name of the sponsor on here. Is the person who sponsored this in the room, and would you like to speak to it?
She's not here.
Okay. Would anyone else like to discuss this?
Can we also add bump stocks where it says high capacity magazines?
The chair will entertain a motion for an amendment, which Ms. Cato just made. How would you like to phrase that amendment?
You said high capacity magazines, and then specifically mentioned, also bump stocks.
So high-capacity magazine, the amendment would be possession of high-capacity magazines and military-style assault weapons, amend to high-capacity magazines, comma, bump stocks, and military-style assault weapons.
Correct.
Perfect.
Because I know there's discussion on the federal level about that, so we need to include that here.
Perfect. Is there discussion on the amendment? Okay. The chair will now call for a motion to adopt the amendment, adding bump stocks. There is a motion. There is a second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Further amendments to the resolution? Come on.
Mr. Chair, can we add?
Come on up.
Hey, how you doing? So first, I'm at the State House every week. The Senate just debated permitless universal carry. After they debated this for 2 days and voted to pass it, they put signs on the grounds of the State House that no firearms are to be carried on the grounds of the State House.
The NRA convention is a gun-free zone.
Right. So with this permitless carry, universal carry law that will probably move forward with the governor's signature, he signed it. Okay, so he signed it. I missed that one. So here's the thing. You don't have to get training to purchase a gun. 18-year-olds can go buy a gun, go to the club, go to the bar. I think that our adoption should be supporting the training, gun safety training before purchase of a firearm.
Thank you, and I'm looking for a place to insert that. Okay, the place I think that would fit is adequate funding shall be allocated to support community-based initiatives aimed at preventing gun violence, comma, including youth intervention programs, comma, mental health services, comma, and training and violence interruption efforts. Question is on the Upson amendment, adding a training requirement. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the amendment. There is a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Further discussion? Yes, sir. Come on up. Use the mic.
I appreciate the amendment, and I agree with it. But I still wonder about the need to say something about permitless carry.
Would you like to offer an amendment to that effect?
I move that we include in this motion words to encourage requiring a permit to carry a firearm.
Okay. The amendment to the amendment has been accepted. I'm going to figure out where this should go. Do you want to just call for the repeal of permitless carry? Yeah. Okay. Section 7, repeal of permitless carry. And we can work with you on the language. If you want to stick around after this, we'll phrase it exactly the way you want. That has been offered as an amendment to the Upson amendment, and the sponsor of the amendment has accepted it. So the question, any further amendments to the Upson amendment? Anything else we want to put in here?
Is there a requirement to a waiting period for the background check?
I think you agree.
So we're calling for universal background checks. Would you like to amend that provision to insert a call for a waiting period?
Yes.
Okay. Comprehensive background checks and a waiting period.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to add the number of days?
Do we want to include a specific number of days for the waiting period in this resolution? The chair hears an amendment from Mr. Bradford, no less than 10. Is that acceptable to the author of the amendment?
Well, the background check should come back before they
Right.
get the gun, because
Right.
if they fail the background check, whose job is it to go get the gun?
Right. But you also want a waiting period inserted?
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Bradford suggests no less than 10 days. Is that acceptable to you?
yes.
Friendly amendment. All firearm transactions, including private sales and transfers, shall be subject to comprehensive background checks and a waiting period of no less than 10 days. The resolution is amended. The question is, are there further amendments, anything else you want to put in?
Just wondering if we should state the type of training.
Yeah, I think it's in there. Any further amendments, any discussion on this resolution? Yes, ma'am.
The pending 10 days, it doesn't seem that it's clear to wait on the results of how you have that there. Wait on the results of the background check for the 10-day waiting period. To me, it didn't seem clear.
I'm reading if I'm understanding the amendment, background checks and a waiting period of no less than 10 days. So does that mean 10 days after the background check comes back?
Mr. Chair, if we can clarify it and say no less than 10 days or until the background check is cleared.
Is that accepted? Okay.
No? Okay.
Might not be possible. If you don't want to clear it, it doesn't come back within 10 days.
Right. So no less than 10 days.
And I think it stands.
And instead of or?
I think concurrently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the background check will be doing within 10 days. Just do it as you have it written.
So you want to amend it to and instead of or?
Yeah.
The way you already have it.
Okay.
That's the and.
And, okay.
And a waiting period of no less than 10 days and until the background check has cleared. Further amendments, further discussion. These are all underlying amendments to, yeah.
How does this body feel about the people getting the home kits where they make guns out of whatever non-metal properties they have to make the gun with? They can go out and kill somebody and then it cannot be traced.
Would you like to add an amendment to add to the bill, to the resolution?
Yes, might as well.
Okay. Would you like to state your amendment? Just
Well, I'll let you state it. You have
okay. Well,
better
we'll
ability.
work out the language. If you want to stick around after the meeting, we will phrase it as you want it to be phrased. So it's and
on the ghost gun.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a different topic, and that's going to be, we're going to have to attack that by getting the manufacturers and the software providers to write the software for the printers in such a way that certain items can't be printed.
Maybe
Mr. Bradford.
Just be a separate resolution that you should work on.
If you want to write that up as a resolution, we can consider it while we're here.
I'm not really proposing any amendment to it. I'm just pointing out that no matter how you state it, this particular type approach will not address the problem.
Okay. So what we have right now is an amendment about ghost guns. We will work with the author to come up with a specific language. Okay, so we have an amendment, another amendment to the Upson Amendment regarding ghost guns. Those in favor of including a provision on ghost guns, which would be worked out with the resolution sponsor, signify by saying, or is there any other discussion? Signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, the ghost guns provision has been adopted. So now we're back to the underlying Upson Amendment. Further discussion, further amendments, anybody want to add anything? We good? Okay, those in favor of the adoption of the Upson Amendment, which includes background checks, waiting periods, training, bump stocks, repeal of permitless carry, ghost guns, those in favor of the amendments will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The resolution as amended is adopted. And again, those of you who offered amendments to the resolution, stick around and we'll get the language where you want it. The passage of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Resolution passes. Title: Resolution to Safeguard Intellectual Freedom and Prevent Book Bans. Whereas, book bans. Resolution to safeguard intellectual freedom and prevent book bans. Whereas, intellectual freedom is a cornerstone of democratic societies, essential for fostering critical thinking, promoting diverse perspectives, and safeguarding the right to free expression. Whereas, the freedom to read and access information is fundamental to the pursuit of knowledge, learning, and personal growth, and censorship undermines this fundamental right. Excuse me. Whereas book banning and censorship threaten the principles of academic freedom, artistic expression, and open inquiry. limiting the free exchange of ideas and stifling creativity and innovation. Whereas attempts to ban books often target works that address controversial or sensitive topics, including race, sexuality, religion, and political ideology, denying readers the opportunity to engage with diverse viewpoints and narratives. Whereas book bans disproportionately impact marginalized communities, including people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, religious minorities, and individuals with disabilities, silencing their voices and erasing their experience from public discourse. Whereas the American Library Association's Office for Intellectual Freedom has documented thousands of attempts to censor books in libraries and schools each year, highlighting the ongoing threat to intellectual freedom and the right to read. Therefore, be it resolved that 1, we affirm the fundamental right of all individuals to access information, ideas, and perspectives without censorship, restriction, or interference. 2, we reject any attempts to ban, challenge, or restrict access to books, whether in libraries, schools, or any other public or private space based on content, viewpoint, or ideology. 3, we support the principles of intellectual freedom and freedom of expression, including the freedom to read, write, create, and explore ideas without fear of censorship or reprisal. 4, we advocate for the development of inclusive and diverse library collections that reflect the experiences, identities, and perspectives of all individuals, including those from marginalized and underrepresented communities. 5, we call upon educators, libraries, and community leaders to resist efforts to censor books and to uphold their professional responsibility to provide access to a wide range of ideas and information. 6, we encourage dialogue, debate, and critical engagement with challenging and controversial topics, recognizing that exposure to diverse viewpoints is essential for fostering empathy, understanding, and tolerance. 7, we support the development of policies and procedures that protect intellectual freedom and defend against censorship, including clear guidelines for addressing challenges to library materials and transparent review processes. 8, we affirm the importance of parental involvement and choice in guiding their children's reading habits while also respecting the rights of other families to make their own choices based on their values and beliefs. 9, we reject attempts to censor books under the guise of protecting children or maintaining community standards, recognizing that censorship undermines education, democracy, and the free exchange of ideas. 10, we commit to defending intellectual freedom and the right to read for all individuals, advocating for policies and practices that promote access to diverse, challenging, and thought-provoking literature. This resolution shall be disseminated widely, shared with policymakers, educators, librarians, and community leaders, and used to mobilize support for the protection of intellectual freedom and the prevention of book bans in South Carolina. The sponsor's not listed. Is the sponsor here? No. Okay. Anybody want to speak to this? Ms. Hayes.
I am not always the best at our rules and orders, but I know a lot of people here would like to hear from the candidate who took time. Can we table these resolutions until after our candidate has spoken? Is that allowed? And then make a motion to come back to them?
We have several more, so let's vote on this one first, and then I'll entertain that motion.
Okay.
Discussion on this resolution. It's been, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those in favor of adopting this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain Ms. Hayes' motions to adjust the schedule to accommodate our candidate. I know Matt Vilardebo is here. Are there any other candidates for office here? Matt Vilardebo, candidate for House District, I can never remember the number, 66? 26. See, I told you I can never remember the number.
Okay. The old mic. Sorry, I'm really shaky today. Just take a second. Good afternoon, everybody. It is great to be standing up here again before this collected group of Democrats. I had expected to give this speech before we selected, so I literally had to rewrite a whole speech in my head as I stood up against the wall there. So y'all bear with me a little bit here as I cobble my way through this. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our newly seated board. I sincerely hope that these folks are going to move things forward, and I look forward to working with them. These are going to be my partners in the upcoming election year, and from the bottom, top, middle, all of my heart, I am happy for all of you, and I look forward to working with every single one of you. Give it up for these folks, y'all. They don't get paid a dime, and this is a second full-time job for them. So let's talk about the upcoming election. Unfortunately, I stand before you today as the only Democrat in the county who has declared their intent to run for office. I look out here, though. I appreciate that. Let's hold off, though. I look out here and I see so many qualified folks. And I know we've got some candidates in this audience. I am here to support you on any level you need in that endeavor. I have done this. This is my third go-round with running for public office. I kind of know the nuts and bolts of this and how to put together the basic framework of a campaign. We need more mentors in this area, so if there's any way I can help shepherd you along, give you input and advice, I am here to help in those endeavors with my fellow Democrats. You are not alone. We are not alone. The time to be afraid of being a Democrat in this state is over. The Republican Party has been running this state in the ground for 20 years. The greatest strength we have is being Democrats. These folks have no interest in improving life in this state. We watch them year after year, election cycle after election cycle. They go up to Columbia and they fight culture wars. They chase things that go bump in the night like wokeness. Nobody in this room can show me a picture of wokeness. No Republican in Columbia can show me a picture of wokeness. These things are fake, and they are never going to find a solution to these because they want to keep us distracted from real problems, like the state of our public education in this state. Diverting our hard-earned tax dollars to private, for-profit institutions is unconstitutional. We need folks going to Columbia to stand in the way of this and to work with our Republican partners in Columbia who don't support this nonsense. They exist and we need to connect with them. This isn't about going to Columbia and standing in the way of everything. This is about going to Columbia and building relationships to move things forward. Do the sort of things that people in the state care about. Fix these crumbling roads. For those of you that live in Fort Mill, are you happy with almost daily water main breaks? I'm not. Anytime a road shuts down in that town, gridlock. We are completely unprepared in this state for a natural disaster. God forbid a hurricane come hit this state again. Above ground power lines are crumbling. All our water infrastructure is crumbling. A hurricane will lay waste to the state. And Henry McMaster prides himself on some of the things he does. Right? This constitutional carry bill. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Think back in time. Let's talk real quick. Think back in time to when you were 18 years old. I know what I was like at 18. And pardon my French, I was a shithead. And I had no business carrying a weapon, concealed or otherwise. As a man who works exclusively with the Department of Defense in the United States military, this myth that our 18-year-old soldiers are somehow entitled to carry weapons is exactly that, a myth. There's other veterans in this audience that'll back me up on that. You get that weapon at the range, you check it out, you check it back in. You don't walk around the base with a rifle on your shoulder everywhere you go, unless that's your duty assignment. These correlations they try to draw are ridiculous. The policies the Republicans in the state support are going to get people killed. We have 10 counties in the state where women cannot access proper health care because there are no OBGYNs in those counties, right? A woman's access to health care should not be restricted by the Old Whites Club up in Columbia. I trust the women of South Carolina to make informed healthcare decisions, and it is none of my damn business who they consult with or how they move forward with those healthcare decisions. Our fundamental freedoms are under attack by the Republicans. yet they claim to be the party of liberty and freedom. We need to take a stand today. I would encourage all of you in this audience to embrace the change that is coming. District 26 is a new district. Ray Felder is leaving that seat. Ray Felder was forced out of that seat. I don't care what you have heard or what you think you may know. She was tapped on the shoulder and said, Ray, your time's up. We have 2 Republicans running in a primary coming up in June. I don't care what anybody says. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care about that election. I care about Matt's election for SC 26. They are 2 sides of the same coin, and that is a Republican coin. Every single story I hear makes me think of these tales I hear of Democrats encouraging Democrats to vote for Republicans. Let me kiss it. I can fix it, said the snake, right? Does everybody remember the tale of the scorpion wanting a ride on the turtle across the water? Y'all, don't lie with dogs, you're gonna get fleas. These folks cannot be trusted with our future. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I know I kind of got everybody fired up. Now we gotta sit back and listen to more resolutions, which are important, right? But it's dry material. So all of you, I've got a sign-up sheet rotating through the room for folks that want to volunteer. I get it. We don't want to schlep from York to Fort Mill to knock doors for Matt. That is a journey. But if you can contribute in any way possible, I would encourage you to do so. We need your money, of course. That QR code, will take you to my Linktree page, which has all my payment information for making campaign contributions. We're gonna need money to make this work. We have things in line to hopefully do some significant fundraising and be able to mount a real campaign against whoever wins this Republican primary. We will need to fight against this person. It will be a battle, but I believe this is a very winnable seat for us, and we can finally send again. There used to be a Democrat representing Fort Mill for SC 26 back in the 90s. We can send somebody again, a Democrat, to represent Fort Mill, SC 26, York County, and the state of South Carolina that is a Democrat. Y'all, thank you so much for coming out today. Let's go kick some ass in November, right?
Why don't you skip this and run for governor?
I don't know if y'all, but that fired us up. That fired us up. Yeah. Even though we was listening to Matt, that fired us up. Thank you, thank you. And we need to stand behind Matt so that we can get him elected to the State House.
Yes. Resolution in support of gender affirming care for youth. Whereas, give it up. Whereas gender identity is a fundamental aspect of self-discovery and self-expression, and all young people have the right to explore and affirm their gender identity in a supportive and affirming environment. Whereas transgender, non-binary, and gender-questioning youth often face significant challenges, including discrimination, bullying, social exclusion, and mental health disparities, which are exacerbated by a lack of access to gender-affirming care. Whereas gender-affirming care for youth, including access to puberty blockers, hormone therapy, gender-affirming surgeries, and mental health support, can play a crucial role in alleviating gender dysphoria, improving mental health outcomes, and promoting healthy development and well-being. Whereas denying or delaying access to gender-affirming care for youth can have serious and long-lasting consequences, including increased rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and suicide, and undermines the autonomy and self-determination of young people. Whereas gender-affirming care for youth is supported by leading medical and mental health organizations, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, and the American Psychological Association, as safe, effective, and medically necessary treatment for gender dysphoria. Whereas affirming and supporting the gender identity of youth is critical to fostering a positive sense of self, promoting resilience, and reducing the risk of negative health outcomes, including substance abuse, homelessness, and involvement in the criminal justice system. Therefore, be it resolved that 1, we affirm the right of all youth to access gender-affirming care, including medical, psychological, and social interventions without discrimination, stigma, or barriers. 2, we reject any laws, policies, or practices that seek to deny or restrict access to gender-affirming care for youth, including parental consent requirements, age restrictions, and insurance exclusions. 3, we support the implementation of affirmative models of care for gender-diverse youth, informed by the principles of harm reduction, informed consent, and best practices in transgender health care. 4, we advocate for the inclusion of gender-affirming care for youth in public and private health care coverage plans, ensuring that all young people have access to medically necessary treatments and procedures, regardless of their family's income or insurance status. 5, we call upon schools, healthcare providers, and youth-serving organizations to create safe, inclusive, and affirming environments for transgender and gender-diverse youth, free from discrimination, harassment, and violence. 6, we support efforts to expand training and education for healthcare providers, educators, and mental health professionals on gender diversity, cultural competency, and best practices for supporting transgender and gender nonconforming youth. 7, we affirm the importance of parental support and involvement in the care of gender diverse youth, while also recognizing that parental acceptance is not always possible or in the best interest of the young person's well-being. 8, we encourage the development of peer support groups, mentorship programs, and community-based resources for gender diverse youth and their families, providing opportunities for connection, validation, and empowerment. 9, we recognize the resilience, strength, and courage of transgender and gender nonconforming youth and commit to amplifying their voices, advocating for their rights, and centering their experiences in policy and practice. 10, we commit to creating a world where all youth can thrive authentically and be celebrated for who they are, free from discrimination, stigma, and barriers to gender-affirming care. This resolution shall be disseminated widely, shared with policymakers, healthcare providers, educators, and youth-serving organizations, and used to advocate for the rights and dignity of transgender and gender-diverse youth in accessing gender-affirming care in South Carolina. Is the sponsor here? Would they like to speak to it? Okay. Is there discussion? The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Those in favor of adopting this resolution will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it unanimously, and the resolution is adopted. There was Ms. Mansfield had a motion to give first priority as state convention delegates to the people who are recorded as having voted in the Democratic presidential primary. Is there discussion on that motion? Mr. Upson.
Will we be able to, what's the time frame to confirm those folks who voted?
We have the list. Okay. Motion to give preference to those who voted in the Democratic presidential primary to be delegates to the state convention. You have to, in order to be a national delegate, once again, you have to have voted in the presidential primary. You can go to the state convention if you didn't vote in the presidential primary, but you cannot be a national delegate. So the question is on the Mansfield motion, and it's been seconded. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Thank you. The motion carries. So if you need to leave, just be sure we have your contact information and make it clear if you want to be a delegate to the state or serve on your executive committee. There are two resolutions in support of abortion rights. I'm going to read the first one, and we can discuss whether Ms. Simpson wants to have her amendment added as a friendly amendment, but I'm going to get through the first one. Whereas the right to, resolution in support of abortion rights. Whereas the right to bodily autonomy is a fundamental human right and is essential to the preservation of individual freedom and dignity. Whereas access to safe and legal abortion is crucial for the health, well-being, and equality of individuals. Whereas restricting or outlawing access to abortion forces individuals, particularly those from marginalized communities, into unsafe and life-threatening situations, violating their right to health and potentially resulting in serious harm or death. Whereas reproductive choice is a matter of personal autonomy and should not be subject to governmental interference or restriction. Whereas the decision to continue or terminate a pregnancy is deeply personal and complex, and individuals must have the freedom to make these decisions based on their own beliefs, values, and circumstances. Whereas access to comprehensive reproductive health care, including abortion services, is essential for gender equality and the empowerment of individuals to control their own lives and futures. Whereas denying access to abortion disproportionately affects low-income individuals, people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, and others who already face systemic barriers to health care and resources. Whereas legal restrictions on abortion do not decrease the incidence of abortion, but instead lead to unsafe practices and increased maternal mortality rates. Whereas the right to abortion has been affirmed as a constitutional right in many democratic societies and is recognized as an essential component of reproductive justice, therefore be it resolved that 1, we affirm the fundamental rights of all individuals to make their own decisions regarding their bodies, health, and reproduction, including the right to access safe and legal abortion services. 2, we reject any laws, policies, or practices that seek to limit or restrict access to abortion, including but not limited to mandatory waiting periods, unnecessary medical procedures, and gestational bans. 3, we advocate for the removal of financial, geographical, and legal barriers that impede access to abortion services, ensuring that all individuals have equal and equitable access to comprehensive reproductive health care. 4, we support evidence-based comprehensive sexuality education and access to contraception to prevent unintended pregnancies and reduce the need for abortion. 5, we stand in solidarity with individuals and organizations working to protect and expand abortion rights both domestically and internationally, and pledge to defend reproductive freedom as a fundamental human right. 6, we call upon governments, policymakers, and legislators to respect and uphold the right to abortion as a fundamental component of reproductive health care and to enact laws and policies that safeguard and advance this right for all individuals. 7, we urge the policymakers to recognize access to safe and legal abortion as a human rights issue and to take concrete actions to ensure that individuals statewide can exercise this right without fear, stigma, or discrimination. 8, we commit to fostering a culture of empathy, compassion, and support for individuals facing unplanned pregnancies, recognizing that everyone deserves respect, dignity, and access to the resources and support they need to make informed decisions about their reproductive lives. 9, we affirm our commitment to advancing reproductive justice and fighting against all forms of oppression, discrimination, and injustice that threaten the autonomy, dignity, and well-being of individuals and communities. We pledge to advocate 10. We pledge to continue advocating for abortion rights until all individuals have the freedom to make their own reproductive choices without fear, shame, or barriers. This resolution shall be disseminated widely, shared with relevant stakeholders, and used to guide advocacy efforts in support of abortion rights in South Carolina. Ms. Simpson, did that cover what you were? Okay.
Dr. Elko, I would like to add language. There won't be any repercussions for those who choose to have abortion.
You can offer that as an amendment.
I'd like to offer that as an amendment.
Let me give you the mic so everybody can hear you. That's another potential amendment.
Yes, I'd like to introduce language that no person in the state of South Carolina will have to fear legal repercussions or safety to their own bodies as a result of choosing abortion. And we have another lady here. Oh, did you want to? Okay.
And to protect the rights of anyone traveling in and out of state to either receive an abortion or assist someone to receive an abortion, and to protect our medical records from anyone trying to see if we have helped or received an abortion.
In addition to what I just read, there will be no legal repercussions for anyone seeking an abortion in the state of South Carolina, and the right to travel out of state to seek an abortion will be protected, and medical records will be protected. Did I cover that to your satisfaction?
Yeah.
Protect those who are assisting.
Doctors.
Is healthcare professionals a broad enough term for you? Or?
Well, and people just driving them.
Thank you.
Assisting somebody for aiding them or housing an abortion. It should be for housing.
So transportation, housing, and healthcare workers. Discussion on the amendments, plural.
Are the doctors covered there?
The healthcare professionals. The question is on the Simpson et al. Amendment, expanding the scope of the resolution, including no legal repercussions, protecting travel out of state, protecting medical records, protect those who assist in seeking an abortion, including those providing transportation and housing, and healthcare workers. The question is on the amendment. Those in favor will, further discussion on the amendment. Those in favor of the amendment will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Is there further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, seeing no one seeking recognition, the question is now on the resolution in support of abortion rights. The chair will entertain a motion for passage. It has been moved, seconded. There is a second. Those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. We have a second resolution against school vouchers. We already adopted the Rouse resolution. I'm not sure whether the author of this is here, but with the convention's permission, we will work this into, if it's acceptable to Ms. Rouse, who is the author of the original resolution, we will work this language into the language of the resolution. Thank you. So moved. Second. Seconded. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Title, Resolution in Support of Fully Funding Public Education. Whereas quality education is a fundamental human right and a cornerstone of a democratic society, essential for fostering informed citizens, promoting social mobility, and ensuring economic prosperity of South Carolinians. Whereas public education serves as the great equalizer, providing all children, regardless of background or socioeconomic status, with the opportunity to reach their full potential and contribute meaningfully to society. Whereas adequate and equitable funding is necessary to provide all students with access to high-quality instruction, resources, facilities, and support services that meet their diverse needs and prepare them for success in the 21st century. Whereas chronic underfunding of public education disproportionately impacts marginalized communities, perpetuating systemic inequalities and widening the achievement gap. Whereas investing in public education yields significant long-term benefits, including higher graduation rates, increased workforce productivity, reduced crime rates, and improved public health outcomes. Whereas educators are essential frontline workers who play a pivotal role in shaping the future of our society and deserve fair compensation, professional development opportunities, and safe working conditions. Whereas failing to fully fund public education undermines the promise of equal opportunity, and undermines the social contract between government and its citizens. Therefore, be it resolved that 1, we affirm our commitment to fully funding public education at all levels, from early childhood through higher education, to ensure that every student has access to a high-quality, equitable, and inclusive education. 2, we call upon governments at all levels to prioritize education funding in their budgets, allocating sufficient resources to meet the needs of students, educators, and schools, regardless of zip code or socioeconomic status. 3, we advocate for the implementation of progressive taxation policies to generate revenue for public education, ensuring that the burden of funding is equitably distributed and that those with the greatest means contribute their fair share. 4, we support efforts to reduce class sizes, increase teacher salaries, and improve working conditions to attract and retain talented educators who are essential to student success. 5, we urge policymakers to address disparities in school funding and resource allocation, particularly in low-income and underserved communities, through targeted investments and equitable funding formulas. 6, we endorse initiatives to expand access to early childhood education, after-school programs, extracurricular activities, and wraparound services to support the holistic development and well-being of students. 7, we recognize the importance of investing in educational infrastructure, including modernizing school facilities, upgrading technology and equipment, and ensuring access to safe and healthy learning environments. 8, we encourage collaboration between government, educators, parents, students, and community stakeholders to develop evidence-based policies and practices that improve educational outcomes and promote equity and excellence for all. 9, we pledge to advocate for policies and legislation that prioritize public education as a national priority and to hold elected officials accountable for their commitment to investing in our children's future. 10, we commit to fostering a culture of lifelong learning and civic engagement, recognizing that an educated populace is essential to the vitality and resilience of our democracy. This resolution shall be disseminated widely, shared with policymakers and stakeholders, and used to mobilize support for fully funding public education as a fundamental right and collective responsibility in South Carolina. Discussion on the resolution.
Can you read the title again for me?
Resolution in support of fully funding public education. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move we approve by acclamation.
It's moved and seconded that we approve by acclamation. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, get in the car. Okay. Resolution adopted.
Knocking them down, John.
Thank you. Almost done. Mr. Bradford, resolution title, Not Democrat Party, Democratic Party. Whereas Republicans have begun regularly referring to the Democratic Party as the Democrat Party, whereas this practice by Republicans is disrespectful and intended by them to weaken public perceptions that the Democratic Party is truly a big tent, quote, Democratic, close quote, organization. Therefore, be it resolved that 1, Democrats call out every instance when Republicans, the press, or others use the term Democrat Party. 2, that during that call out, those doing so refer to the Republic Party unless and until the offending party desists in the future or agrees to do so.
Not all the point of discussion. Can't we just refer to them as the repugnant party?
The repugnant party, that we...
You're a very sick person.
Discussion on the resolution. Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Moved, second. There is a second. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is agreed to. Okay, this is a change to our bylaws that I'm introducing. We do not have a separate set of York County Democratic Party bylaws. I have been informed that they exist, but nobody's seen them in a long time. So I can't tell you. So we operate according to the bylaws of the South Carolina Democratic Party, which covers almost everything we need to do. So rather than come up with a set of bylaws, which I've been promising to do for about 5 years, I do have a one-page document which I would like to introduce as a supplement to the South Carolina Democratic Party rules as they pertain to York County. And this is just to put in writing some things that we've been doing in practice ever since we lost the bylaws. Like, for example, last fall, our chair resigned, and it took a while to put in place a procedure for acting chair and then elect Ms. Jackson to finish the term. So the big thing here is that this resolution would provide that in the event of a vacancy in the chair, the first vice chair automatically moves up to finish the term. So that's the highlight. These are the governing rules and bylaws of the Democratic Party of York County, South Carolina. These rules and bylaws shall be in addition to and consistent with current South Carolina Democratic Party rules, as well as the rules and bylaws of the Democratic National Committee. County party organization is covered by Section 5 of the South Carolina Democratic Party rules, adopted in State Convention on June 12, 2022, as well as by Section 6.1 County Convention. All matters not specifically covered in these rules and bylaws will be governed according to South Carolina Democratic Party rules. Membership in the York County Democratic Party is open to any registered voter in York County, South Carolina. All meetings of the YCDP or its organizations, including but not limited to the County Convention, the Executive Committee, and the Executive Board, shall be open to the public. Minutes of each meeting shall be taken and made available for public inspection. The officers of the York County Democratic Party, a chair, 3 vice chairs, secretary, treasurer, York County members, and alternate members of the South Carolina Democratic Party Executive Committee shall be chosen in accordance with established SCDP rules and procedures. Beginning in 2025, the officers, with the exception of the secretary and treasurer, shall be elected for 2-year terms at the county convention in each odd-numbered years. So that clarifies that the people we elected today serve for 1-year terms. The executive committee members have 1 more year left on their terms, and then everybody will be elected next year and subsequently for 2-year terms starting in the odd years. The officers of the York County Democratic Party, as listed above, shall constitute the executive board. The secretary and treasurer will be nominated by the chair and confirmed by the executive committee at its first meeting following the county convention. Additional members of the executive board with full voice and vote may be nominated by the chair and confirmed by the board. Each member of the executive board shall have responsibilities as designated by the chair. The executive board shall hold a public meeting at least monthly. Virtual meetings are permissible. The executive board, in appropriate consultation with the executive committee, shall have day-to-day responsibility for the governance and administration of the York County Democratic Party. In the event of a vacancy on the executive board, with the exception of any additional members as described above, the chair shall call a meeting of the executive committee within 30 days for the purpose of electing a successor. In the event of a vacancy in the office of the chair, the first vice chair shall call the meeting and preside over it. So the first vice chair automatically moves up to acting chair. The executive committee shall consist of 1 member and 1 alternate member from each precinct in the county. The executive committee shall meet at least quarterly. Virtual meetings are permissible. So the executive committee is 1 person from each precinct. The executive board is the county-wide elected officers, chairs, vice chairs, etc. And what we've been doing in practice, although we do have executive committee meetings as required by the SCDP, the executive board, the officers, basically run the party on a day-to-day basis. And we've been doing that in practice for about 20 years, and this just puts it in writing. I'll be happy to entertain questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Love.
Just confirming that
vacancy of a chair, the first vice steps up to finish out the entire, or just the 30 days?
I said two different things. That's an excellent point of clarification. Having written this, I would be amenable to an amendment to say that in the event of a vacancy of the chair, the first vice chair automatically moves up to finish the term. Would you like to amend the resolution? Mr. Love makes the resolution. Or the amendment. Discussion on the amendment. The chair accepts the amendment as a friendly amendment. Is there discussion on the resolution? Mr. Bradford.
Is it necessary to think about what if the person who moves up then steps down? The other people, they're still listed as second and third vice president. They wouldn't automatically be filled in that circumstance.
The second and third don't move up because the first, second, and third are defined by gender, race, and age. So what would happen? The first vice chair moves up to chair. The executive committee would then elect a new first vice chair. Or, if it's the second vice chair, it wouldn't involve a vacancy in the office of the chair. But what we do if there is a vacancy in any of the county offices, except now for the chair, the county executive committee elects the successor. Any questions, discussion? The chair will entertain a motion to accept the bylaw as amended. Anybody? So moved. Is there a, yeah, we're almost, this is the last one, I promise. Ms. Keenan. Oh. Those in favor of the adoption of this bylaw will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bylaw adopted. Thank you. Ms. Keenan.
I'll put it in words, and you can change it to be official. I insist that we adopt the Medicaid expansion in South Carolina, finally. And if you want some whereases, there is the whereas.
It's a good idea.
Hospitals have closed down. Our emergency centers are primary care for thousands of people, and we've lost billions of money that we could have had if we had accepted Medicaid expansion.
Is there discussion on the resolution? Okay, the chair would move that we adopt the Keenan resolution, although it hasn't been submitted in writing. She's working on some writing, and I would ask you authorize us, the board, to work more on that to get it up to where it needs to be for presentation of to the state platform committee. Though, is there discussion on the resolution? Those in favor will signify by of adopting the resolution will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Resolution adopted unanimously, and we're done. So we're in the process of choosing delegates to the state convention. Be sure you sign up if you want to do that. I think we adopted the. We adopted the resolution electing the executive committee members who had signed up. Let's see. Basically what we did is the people who are signing up to be delegates are on the sheet. The chair would move that we elect as delegates to the state convention on May 17th, 18th in Columbia, those who signed up on the sheet, with the Mansfield proviso that those who, if we have more seekers than actual seats available, priority be given to those who voted in the Democratic presidential primary. And if there's any overage, you will be alternates. The chair will accept a motion to approve that resolution. So moved. Is there a second? There is a second. Those in favor, aye. Those opposed, no. You guys are really easy to work with. Motion adopted.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that stayed to the end. That was a wavering feat. I will tell you, this is just a prelude to what the state convention is like. So if you're going to the state convention, this is what it's like if you've never been before. So I want to say thank you to everyone that stayed and came out. If you have any questions or concerns, please stop by and leave your name, telephone number, and email address on the table with a small note, and we'll get back to you with your questions or concerns. But do know that we will have office hours that will start here in a couple weeks. We'll send out notification letting people know when the office will be manned. And if you want to participate and help volunteer, please do so. I've already heard from 2 great volunteers that want to work the office, so we're grateful for that. And if there are no other questions or concerns, Matt Valero, one more time.
Nikita, Vilardebo. That's a mouthful for anybody. So real quick, I've got so fired up I forgot to mention, we have postcards. If anybody would like to take a stack of 10, 20, we're down to our last 40 of the 500 we ordered, so that's good news. So thank you. So if anybody would, and if that sign-in sheet has worked its way around successfully, I'll be super happy to see 5 names on there. So y'all, I've always wanted to do this, so I hope you don't mind. Let's see if y'all know how to do audience participation. Fired up? Fired up? There we go.
All right, and this one last thing. There is instruction for a national organizing call for President Joe Biden. If you want to be a part of that, please stop by the table. We can get you information so that you can be a part of that call. Today is at 4 p.m. So if you want to get information, stop by the table and we'll have it available for you. I'm going to officially call the York County Democratic Party County Convention adjourned.